we will walk you today through how you can change the look and feel, how you can create your own pages, and how you can do also automate such things here in the developer portal. So let's get started by having a first view on how the developer portal looks like out of the box. As you can see here on the screen right now, this is the Kong developer portal just installed with an example theme where you can see we already have some logos, some colors attached, some prepackaged texts in there, and also some OpenAPI specifications as examples. We'll use that developer portal, which also has some more pages like the catalog, where you can find OpenAPI specifications, a login page, and so on now, and change it to our corporate entity step by step to get more and more to look like we want to have it on our production environment. So what is the first step? Well, the first step will be that we want to change that logo up here, and we also want to change the fav icon according to our corporate standard. So how can we do that? So let's go over here to our Kong Manager. The Kong Manager is our tool to configure the whole cluster. So you would control all data planes in your cluster from the gateway side. You would see here some statistics and so on going on. You can create one or multiple developer portals, which we have done. So we already have one running, but you can have multiple of them. And we will now change that dev portal here. So we go to our only workspace so far and looking here in the dev portal section where we could set up basic things, like we could set up how we make authentication, and we can ask for different registration parameters and so on. That all things we don't cover today, so we will look at appearance. Appearance, as you can see, is a nice click user interface where you can just say, I want to change the branding, the logo. So I just say upload a logo. They can just pick a logo from my PC here, and I want to have that Kong logo here as the background. And while I'm here, also the fav icon is not chosen so far. So let me just upload an icon here I already have prepared. Going down here, saying save changes, going back to our dev portal, reloading the page, and we can see we now have here our dark blue logo of Kong in place, and we also have now here the fav icon with our Kong gorilla in our navigation tabs. Great. What else can we change here in that appearance settings? Well, you can already see we have here some color section. You can change text colors. You can change the footer colors, some button colors, and so on, and also the fonts. So let's say, well, we want to have the buttons, the one here, according to our corporate standard, and this is our dark blue. Okay, let's have that dark blue being set, and we can have here this nice picker looking. We want to have the filling of the button primary. We just click on here. We can now do all the things here with a nice picker in here. But if you already have that color code, and I got that from my marketing department, I can just set that up. And now I have set that. Save changes. Go ahead, reload my page, and now it's a dark blue. Oh, still in green. What else can we do? Let's have a look again. We can also have the fill color if we are hovering over that icon. And once again, I got from my marketing department that they say we want to have another shade of blue in here. So just setting it up in here with a lighter blue, as you can see. Save the changes, reload the page, and now we are having here this nice hover effect for the blue colors. So that's the way basic appearance settings we can do in here. Colors, texts, and fonts, very easy as you can see. So that's the starting point from your journey from customizing the Kong design. So let's have now the first look under the hood, what we can do more. Typically, when you want to design your dev portal, you want to do more than just changing some colors and logos. And for this, we will have a look here at this section called Editor. In the editor, you can change the whole dev portal in every aspect. We will start here by the beginning, just looking what do we have in here. We do have here a section where we have a configuration file. And you can see there are some texts to be set. There are some other data which we'll look at on. We can, for example, say now this is our developer portal. So that's the name. Just change that one. Reload again in here. And you can see now this is our developer portal. Great. What else can we do here? Well, and we do here different sections. Yeah, we do have here a section for the general portal settings. And the next one is we also have here a file where we have our configuration for the theme. So we can look here at the theme down here. And there's a themeconf file where we can see exactly what we just did. We can see the fonts, we can see the colors, and we also see the images where we just uploaded our images in here. So everything that we just did is also available here for a YAML file, which is very great for CI/CD usage, that you can just auto-generate those files in here. And you can even extend that. You can just say, I need to have here my own color. Let's say it's my company color, so that you can reuse it later on different places. So let's call it here also my company color in here. Say save changes, and now we can reuse it in other parts of the template, and it's even now in the editor. So if I go back in here, you will see my company color could also be picked up here. So it's a very extensible framework on what colors do you need, what are the typical colors, so that there's no need to always have them hard-coded somewhere. Build the list of the typical colors, go to your CI settings and find all of those colors in there. The next step, let's change some of the contents. Yeah, we see we do have here our developer portal, we do have here some APIs, and we do have the catalog. So how do we change some contents here in our developer portal? Well, once again, we go back to our manager, look at the editor, and there are different sections. We already saw that portal conf file. We already looked a little bit in the themes part. I will have a look at the content sections in a few seconds, but now we want to upload a new specification to our system. So a new OpenAPI or Swagger 2.0 or 3.0. How do we do that? We just say new file. We just say it's a specification. It's something about fun. And then we can simply copy and paste here our YAML file, save that change. And you already see we're getting a live preview, a fully running, working live preview here on the right hand side for everything we are changing. And back to our developer portal, and we can just reload that one. And we see now there's our random facts. Yeah. And random facts, now we can see here all the facts, all these things in here. So that's the first glimpse of how you can change some content here in that folder structure. Just upload something in here and you can see we have now an OpenAPI file in place. So with those basic changes where we are simply changing pre-configured things, let's now really get under the hood and have a look at how we can really customize things in a little bit more detail. The first thing you want to change is looking here at the home page, is we do have this welcome message with built with Kong, and we want to change that to something different. So how do we do that once again? Well, we're having a look first here on our editor again, and this time we are talking about a content. You see here all the files and the content sections which are available here on the different pages. There's the login page where you can log into Dev Portal. There's a register page where you can register, and there's also the index page. That's in fact the home page we are just looking at. And notice we also have this live preview everywhere in here. First thing, we want to change the text. So let's say this is our Dev Portal, and the tagline we want to have cool. Save changes. Yeah, already live in here in preview in here, and now we have our Dev Portal and cool being customized. So far so good. Yeah, how does that file look like? Well, we can see it's a YAML file. The YAML file has a section called hero, and we do have a title and a tagline. The title and the tagline. But how does Kong know how to render that file? Does it should look like it does here on the right hand side? That's described here on the top. It's saying it's using the layout called homepage. And now we come to the very central concepts of Kong. Yeah, every content is a YAML file, like we just see here. Every content is a YAML file, which describes something like hero title, hero tagline. And each of those YAML files is rendered by a template. In this case, homepage.html. So let's have a look and look for this homepage.html. We already have here the themes folder open. We do have here layouts. And in the layouts we do have, you can see it, homepage.html. So we see here, okay, there are some HTML in place and some other things being included. What's that? We can see it looks like that homepage consists of sub-templates. That's the hero, that's that part. Then we have the catalog, catalog in here. And then we have just a small clients list, quite empty right now by my side, down here. So we're looking now for this hero part, which is the above part, and that we can find here in the partials, as written here, partials, homepage, hero. And here we can see everything can be customized. So we can create here any HTML, any JavaScript, any CSS, whatever you want to do in here can be done by you here in any kind. So let's say we want that one also be in an H2. So that the cool one should be as big as the title. So you see hero.title, hero.tagline, those have been the YAML fields you have seen before. And now I'm just saying that the second one, the tagline should be the same size. And now that's also called cool. But we can go beyond that. We can change everything in here. So let's get back to our actual content, where we have title and tagline defined. So we're going back to our index and just say dev, and this is our text. This is the YAML structure, and then can be fully creative on doing anything with that YAML file. I can create my own structure with arrays in it, whatever I want to do. You have a full YAML file where you can be as creative as you want. As you have just seen, I've changed now that file, but nothing has changed. Why is that the case? Because we have never told the developer portal how to render that. We just have said there's a new field called dev. Hero.dev is now available, but not rendered. So we can go back to our hero template. I can just say we want to have that one being read once again as a paragraph. So as said, there could be any CSS in here. You can make it red, blinking, whatever you want. And we want to have here not the tagline, we want to have the dev part in place here. So save changes. And now this is our text, hero.dev, which is exactly what we have specified here. Hero.dev, this is our text. And you might get already a first feeling. You can create your own structures, your own template, whatever you want to do in here. You're not limited to use the ones already being baked in. You can create your own partials and layouts, as many as you want, to change anything here on the homepage, so that in the end you can define from scratch your own design, however it looks like. If you want to have the navigation somewhere else, if you want to have everything with HTML, if you want to have the typical consent screen, whatever you want to have, you have full control on the whole HTML using that technology stack. So how about an example on to change something which is not only a very simple structure like an HTML? So let's do an example with CSS. So as you might have noticed on the appearing section, we do have a branding for the logo and the fav icon. But let's say we want to change something completely different. We want to go down here and change that background image. Well, how do we do that again? In fact, that's driven by a CSS. So we can once again go in our editor, look in our theme, look in the assets part, and then we can see, by the way, you can upload here other images, and you can upload other JavaScript. You're fully open to do so. We do have here the style section. And let's say we want to add something here to that layout where, by the way, everything which you have seen so far has been applied in here. So we want to change something here. And I already have prepared a new image. I got it from my marketing department, and they say the background image should look like this one. We now have here our connectivity company logo in place. So we are taking that one and we want to put it here in that container. And if you know about CSS and HTML, you just need to know how the class of that container is. That's called as homepage.hero. So what we will do now, and I'm having that here already to not mistype something in place. We're saying for homepage.hero, we want to set the background image to the image we just specified. Saving the changes, going back to our dev portal, reloading in here. And now we can see we have now our dev portal being customized in here. So that's the first thing where we can see we are changing here the layout more than what is pre-built into the system. We have made some crazy stuff. Our dev portal does not really look like here in here. And remember, we can always change the colors. We can still go back to our appearance section and say we want to change the hero color, hero text color to be more specific. That is right now white. And once again, we want to make it our dark blue, that it gets readable again. So nicely placed together, our handcrafted stuff plus the one which can be clicked. You're loading in here, and now our dev portal, this is our text, is readable again, and everything is still being accessible down here. And this is just a basic example. Yeah, you can skin everything, you can put in your own JavaScript everywhere. That's how it works, that you can change the whole layout everywhere. You can make your non-rounded buttons, you can make your nice hover effect, whatever you want. You have full control about HTML and CSS. So let's get to the next level. So far we have just used already existing templates. How do we create our own template in the end? So how can we create your own structure and our own template to be rendered in our dev portal? Let's say we want to have a news. One news entry should be part of our dev portal. So what can we do? We can once go back to our editor. I can just say we want to have a new file in our content section, which we want to call news.yaml, for example. And we are getting here a skeleton of an entry. Let's call that one something like news. Underneath news, we have a title, our headline, and then we have text where we say this is the news entry with everything in there. Yeah, let's call it also here news, uppercase. So far, we're not doing anything. As we have seen with our examples before, we can now choose our layout, and also here we can be creative. You can just say we want to use the layout called news.html. Okay, save that. Nothing has happened. Well, we do not have a news.html layout. So go down to base and see layouts, nothing about news. But we can create it. We can just say new file in our theme folder, and we want to save it in our base. I see here base layouts news.html. That's how we just called it in our content file. Oh, right now already rendering something. We already have something pre-baked. We want to use something from our YAML, so we can use here curly brackets and say from the page, the news, the title, our headline. Why is it page news title? Well, have a look at our news. That's our page. There's the news.title, and we also have .text. So we can go down to our news again and say, let's make there a small line, and then we say as a paragraph, we want to have once again page.news.text, and also as a paragraph. Okay, now we already have done most of the work. We have now created a news entry in here with a headline, and now you can imagine with a date, with images, whatever you would prefer to put in place for a news entry. But the one thing we are missing is right now that it's just white. That's even rendered, so we can go ahead to our dev portal and just have a look here at /news. But there's no navigation. Now we can simply have a small look how we can include the other templates. Yeah, that's what we have seen already with the hero in the beginning. And we just will borrow something from another template. We will just go to the about page. We can just see, okay, we have the general page layout, and we have to surround the content itself by a content section. Okay, news, where we are. Just saying we want to have that one also being rendered within our full layout. and this is then the actual content in that layout. And boom, here we are. Also here on the big page, you can see now we are getting once again our navigation back. We're getting here our headline and so on, and our footers also back in place. And now up to your creativity to create your own structure. Whatever it is, you can build it here in this very easiest way of defining contents and templates according to them. There's now one more thing which we also want to have here. Well, I just knew that URL. Now, if I do not know there's a news, how can I do that? Well, you already have seen there is a navigation up here, and we already saw a glimpse of in that file there's the navigation up here. So let's say we want to have that news in here in the menu. We can just say we want to have another menu entry next to the catalog, which is called news. It should point to news, which is in fact here this file name. So I could also make log out, log in, and so on in here. So I just say to news, and we say that's a public page. You can also make it here log in only or role space, but we just say it's a public page. So we go ahead, reload. Now we have a news entry, and we have our headline here in place. So that quickly we can extend the content, the structure of the content, as well as the main navigation to show it. Let's say we have done all those things, but we are living in a CI/CD world and DevOps world. And so far we did everything using the browser as an interface. But we want to automate such changes like changing files and uploading things. And here we come back to a very core principle of Kong, which is everything in Kong is an API. And this is also true for the whole developer portal. Let me show what I mean. Yeah, that's our developer portal as we have just worked the whole day so far. Let's have a look at the administration API running here on 8001. You might notice you can remote control your Kong installation completely. And there's one endpoint called files. On files, I'm getting the whole developer portal. And by whole, I really mean everything. Everything which we have seen here in our editor, all those files, all contents, all specs, all themes, everything is here on that endpoint. So we just created one for the news. So we can just say that was something we put into the, let's see, content folder. See, content news.yaml. And we can see here's our news file with our title, news, the layout, and then our headline, and so on. And this is a full API, so we can create those files, update those files, delete those files. So you can automate everything. You can upload images, you can upload YAML files, templates, everything can be uploaded and changed using that API. Just as an example, we already have here in our system some specifications, as we already have uploaded here in the catalog our random facts one, and we also have here Swagger, Pet Store, and HTML from the beginning. And we can use that API to upload something else. I do have some examples here in place. Let's say we also want to have a movies specification in place. We can use the admin API /files and say we want to upload it. We want to upload it to the specs folder. That's in fact the folder where our specifications are located. In our system, we want to call it movies.json. And then the contents we also want to get from that file. Uploading it, automated the publishing to the dev portal, going back to our catalog. And here's our movies API. So everything can be uploaded, changed. You can upload the navigation, the CSS, everything is in that API and can be part of a CI/CD pipeline. We have changed it using the API, but is there another way to create such files in an, I would say, more convenient way for the web developers? And the answer is obviously yes. And you see on our GitHub, there's a Kong Portal CLI. That's a tool which I already have installed, where you can remote control your portal using a CLI. To do so, as described down here, you want to have first the portal templates repo being cloned to your machine. So I'm going ahead and saying I'm going to temp make the video and say git clone. Boom. What we get here is now we are getting from that repo the standard layout, the one which we have started earlier today with the standard graphics and so on. So they are all in here. So if I go here and make an ls in workspaces default, you see there's the portal conf file, there is the contents like the index page, but still the one which has been there from the beginning. So if I look at that content index page, that's the standard one as it comes out of us. That's in fact the one being applied when you just create a new developer portal. Now we can work with the portal CLI. As I said, I already have it installed here on my machine. It tells me what I can do. What can I do? Where I can say, I want to use portal to fetch an existing dev portal, and that's the one from my default workspace. Why is that the case? Well, we have been all the time working here, in fact, in the default workspace. So we can fetch different workspaces, different portals. So we say fetch, get that one. And now let's have a look at the same file again. And we will notice, oh, there are our changes. And now we can go ahead and see here all the contents, all the about page. What else did we do? We did also in the content part, we did the news YAML file, right? There's a news YAML file. Or we did change the templates, themes, layouts. There's our news template. And we can change everything in here. But first, let me do something else. I will say portal deploy. So I can deploy back to com what I'm changing here on my local dist minus watch. And once again, the default one. So let's see. We do have here our dev portal on the home page. I will now wiping it. And now we want to change the text on the home page. Once again, we have here our dev portal. This is our text. And now we go ahead and say, well, on the home page, it was in the folder of content. It was the index page, our dev portal, tagline cool. This is our text. And now we say, this is my editor. I'm saving it here, Command S. And already, if I reload in here, you can see it's updated. Why is that the case? When I said portal deploy, I also had this -w, which means I'm watching everything I'm doing locally. So everything I change here will immediately being uploaded. So the moment I save the index file, like I did in here, it got uploaded to my dev portal. So for a developer, a very nice way to create his own designs with his most beloved editor, with the most beloved frameworks around him. He can just work on his local machine and then directly have a live updating system up and running in here. So that's what we have for you today. That's about customization dev portal, from the very basics to quite some detail like here in the end. I hope you had some fun, and see you again soon.